young patient walks into your clinic with a dull ache in the groin, pain on internal rotation, and no memory of a single injury. The radiograph looks almost normal, yet you sense the femoral head is heading for collapse. Avascular necrosis of the hip is a disease where timing is everything. Caught before subchondral fracture, the native joint can often be preserved. Missed by a few months, total hip arthroplasty becomes inevitable in a patient who may live with that prosthesis for 40 years. This video will walk through how to make that call, stage by stage, lesion by lesion, so you know exactly when to decompress, when to graft, and when to replace. First, the foundations. Avascular necrosis of the hip is, at its core, a race against collapse. The single idea to carry into clinic is this: identify the condition on MRI before subchondral collapse occurs and offer joint preservation, because once the crescent sign appears, the femoral head will fail and arthroplasty becomes inevitable. In the pre-collapse window of Fichat stages 1 and 2, the trabecular architecture is still intact, interosseous pressure can be relieved, and core decompression with or without bone grafting genuinely alters the natural history. Once the crescent sign, that subchondral fracture line, is visible, the mechanical scaffolding has given way, joint preservation fails in the majority, and even total hip arthroplasty delivers worse outcomes than in primary osteoarthritis because the patients are younger and the bone stock is poorer. So the entire management strategy pivots on a single clinical question: is this head still spherical on imaging, or has it begun to collapse? Before we can talk about avascular necrosis, we have to understand why the femoral head is so unforgivingly vulnerable to ischemia. The dominant perfusion, somewhere between 70 and 80% of the total, comes from the medial circumflex femoral artery, a branch of the profunda femoris. After it curls around the posterior aspect of the femoral neck, it gives off the posterosuperior retinacular vessels, which run up the neck inside the capsule to reach the head. These are endarteries in functional terms, with little collateral rescue if they are kinked, stretched, or thrombosed. The lateral circumflex femoral artery contributes less than 20% and mainly supplies the anterior neck and metaphyses, while the artery of the ligamentum teres from the obturator is highly variable and rarely enough to keep the head alive on its own. So remember the mental picture: a single dominant source hugging the posterior neck, retinacular twigs climbing under the capsule to the head, and you can already see why a displaced intracapsular fracture or a posterior dislocation can tip the head into necrosis. Avascular necrosis of the femoral head is the final common pathway of 3 converging mechanisms, and to teach it well, we must walk through them in order. The first mechanism is direct vascular insult. Trauma such as a displaced femoral neck fracture or a posterior hip dislocation stretches and tears the retinacular branches of the medial circumflex femoral artery, which supplies 70 to 80% of the head. The second mechanism is intravascular obstruction. Sickle cells, fat emboli, or thrombotic occlusions block the small subchondral vessels. The third is extravascular compression. Steroid-induced adipocyte hypertrophy, alcohol-related marrow fat expansion, or Gaucher cell infiltration raises intraosseous pressure above 30 millimeters of mercury and chokes off venous outflow. All 3 routes land at the same endpoint: ischemia and osteocyte death within 12 to 48 hours. With the matrix still mineralized, but the cells gone, viable bone at the margin attempts repair through creeping substitution, layering new woven bone onto dead trabeculae. The head remains spherical but mechanically weakened, and once load exceeds repair, a subchondral fracture, the crescent sign appears, the head flattens, and secondary osteoarthritis follows. That sequence, from insult to ischemia to creeping substitution to collapse, is the pathophysiology you must hold in your head whenever you stage a patient with hip pain. Next, how to recognize it. A patient with hip avascular necrosis almost always presents with insidious groin pain, and the key examination clue is pain on internal rotation. The history is rarely dramatic. It is a dull ache creeping in over weeks to months, worse on weight-bearing, on stairs, and when rising from a chair, often radiating to the anterior thigh or even the knee into the thigh or knee. On the couch, loss of internal rotation is the earliest and most reliable restriction, and forced internal rotation of the flexed hip reproduces the groin pain that brought the patient in. Because avascular necrosis is bilateral in 50 to 80% of cases within 2 years, every patient in front of you needs both hips examined and both hips imaged, even when the contralateral side feels normal. Missing early contralateral disease is a common source of complaints down the line. Finally, a full risk factor screen is part of the examination. Steroids, alcohol, trauma, sickle cell disease, coagulation disorders, and idiopathic cases. And remember that multifocal disease also affects the shoulders and knees, particularly in sickle cell and steroid-related cases. Imaging starts with plain radiographs of both hips, an AP pelvis and a lateral, but early disease is invisible on film. The test that changes the timeline is MRI. On this bilateral coronal series, you can see the classic band-like signal abnormality at the edge of the necrotic segment. The MRI band sign that marks the reactive interface between dead and living bone. Bone marrow edema may surround the lesion, and both hips must be scanned because contralateral occult disease is so common. MRI is the only reliable way to catch FICAT stage 1 disease while the radiograph is still normal, and that is the window where joint preservation still works. Once disease is established, the plain film catches up. On this, a P pelvis, the femoral heads show mottled sclerosis and lucency, the mixed density of necrotic bone and repair. There is not yet clear collapse on every view, but the architecture is already abnormal. Compare both sides carefully. Asymmetric joint space and relative density changes are easy to miss if you only glance at the painful hip. Plain films still matter. They stage collapse, show the crescent sign when it arrives, and they are what you use in theater and in clinic follow-up after MRI has made the diagnosis. This is the image that ends the joint preservation conversation for most patients. Bilateral FICAT, stage 3 disease, subchondral collapse, and the crescent sign at both femoral heads. The crescent is a thin radiolucent line beneath the articular surface, a subchondral fracture through dead bone. Once that line is present, the mechanical scaffolding has failed. The head will flatten under load, and isolated core decompression rarely salvages a spherical joint. At this point, your decisions shift toward osteotomy in a carefully selected young patient, or more often toward arthroplasty, with honest counseling about revision risk over a long lifetime. Finally, how to manage it. The management of avascular necrosis of the hip branches on 2 axes, the FICAT stage and the patient's age. In precollapse disease, FICAT stages 1 and 2, where the crescent sign has not yet appeared and the head remains spherical, core decompression is the workhorse. Drilling a lateral track above the lesser trochanter drops intraosseous pressure from over 30 millimeters of mercury back toward normal and opens a revascularization corridor, giving roughly 80% success in stage 1 and 60 to 70% in stage 2. For larger lesions, I add a non-vascularized bone graft, a tantalum rod, or bone marrow aspirate concentrate to deliver osteoprogenitor cells down the channel. When the crescent sign appears, stage 3 collapse, age and residual geometry dictate the choice. In a carefully selected patient under 40 with limited collapse and salvageable anatomy, a realigning osteotomy can rotate healthier bone into the weight-bearing zone and buy years before arthroplasty. Once the patient is over 40 or the collapse is advanced, or stage 4 arthritis has set in, total hip arthroplasty becomes the definitive answer, with the caveat that outcomes are inferior to primary osteoarthroplasty, so young patients must be counseled about a 15 to 20% revision rate at 10 years. The single most important inflection point in avascular necrosis is the crescent sign, which is the radiographic signature of subchondral fracture and mechanical failure of the necrotic segment. Before the crescent appears, the head is spherical and trabecular architecture is intact, so core decompression can relieve intraosseous pressure and allow creeping substitution. Once the crescent is visible, collapse is underway and isolated joint preservation fails in the majority of cases. The Fichat system captures this clinically through its stage III, but it does not quantify how much of the head is at risk. That is where Steinberg and Arco add value. Steinberg layers lesion size onto every stage, and an extent over 30% of the head predicts progression even when the crescent is not yet present. Arco goes further by mapping the lesion to medial, central, or lateral columns of the weight-bearing dome, because a laterally sited lesion collapses far faster than a medial one. The Kerbal combined necrotic angle pulls stage, size, and location into one simple number. Add the arc of necrosis on the mid-coronal and mid-sagittal MRI images. A combined angle under 190 degrees is low risk and supports joint preservation. 200 to 240 is intermediate, and over 240 degrees is high risk, meaning collapse is likely despite core decompression and grafting should be considered, or arthroplasty if the patient profile allows. Use the three systems together rather than arguing between them. Fichat tells you when, Steinberg how much, Arco where, and Kerbal gives you the threshold at which preservation is likely to fail. A few numbers anchor every decision we make in femoral head avascular necrosis. In the United States, between 10 and 30,000 new cases are diagnosed each year, and the peak age sits squarely in the productive working decades of 30 to 50. The disease is bilateral in 50 to 80% of patients within 2 years, which is why the contralateral hip must always be imaged even when entirely asymptomatic. In Fichat stage 1, core decompression carries roughly 80% success, provided the head has not yet collapsed. That figure falls sharply once the crescent sign appears. And when we quantify collapse risk with the Kerbal combined necrotic angle, a combined arc under 190 degrees is low risk, while greater than 240 degrees predicts failure of isolated decompression and pushes us toward grafting or arthroplasty. So what is the take-home from avascular necrosis of the hip? First, image the painful hip early with MRI. It picks up Fichat stage 1 disease before any radiograph change, and that is the window where joint preservation actually works. Second, stage every patient with the Fichat system and quantify the lesion, whether you use Steinberg size, a RCO location, or the modified Kerbal combined angle on MRI, because a lesion over 30% of the head or a combined necrotic angle over 240 degrees will collapse despite your best efforts. Third, preserve the joint before the crescent sign appears. Core decompression with bone grafting or marrow concentrate augmentation has around 80% success in Fichat 1 and 60 to 70% in Fichat 2, but once the subchondral fracture is present, salvage procedures fail in the majority. Fourth, when you do offer arthroplasty, especially under the age of 40, counsel honestly. THA outcomes in a VN are worse than in primary osteoarthritis, dislocation runs higher, osteolysis is a real concern, and revision rates approach 15 to 20% at 10 years, a number the patient must understand and accept. The teaching material you have just heard is drawn from the OrthoVellum module on avascular necrosis of the hip, authored by the OrthoVellum medical education team and reviewed by orthopedic editors with MBBS and MS ortho credentials, last updated in early 2026. The evidence base draws on contemporary reviews of osteonecrosis imaging, including the curious 2024 pictorial review of bilateral AVN on MRI, and the Journal of Orthopaedic Surgery and Research series on radiographic staging of the femoral head. The Ficatalit diagram and management algorithm illustrations are original OrthoVellum visuals prepared to accompany the written module. Classification systems, joint-preserving thresholds, and arthroplasty pitfalls reflect the consensus teaching in adult hip reconstruction, synthesized rather than quoted verbatim. Please remember that this video summarizes a curriculum and cannot replace your own clinical assessment of the individual patient in front of you.